So with the grace of Lord Krishna, let us move on to chapter 16 today. Chapter 16 is Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. And this chapter is an amazing description of today's life. It's a very empirical description of what is happening now. You will see it. That is how this chapter is. And as I was mentioning earlier, this chapter has a logical connection, because in chapter 13 he said Purusha is connected with Prakriti and gets stuck with this gum called Guna. So therefore in chapter 14 we immediately saw the three gunas, what are the three gunas and so on. Although we took a slight digression in chapter 15 Purushottama Yoga, where the concept of Kshara Purusha and Akshara Purusha, all those came. We are now returning back to the main argument, and that is about gunas. So this chapter actually demonstrates what happens when you have Sattva Guna, and after all he talked about three gunas in chapter 14. He also said that each individual can have a certain proportion of these three gunas. He also said in chapter 14 that one guna can actually dominate the other two. All these shlokas we saw. But we have so far not seen how does it play out. Is it just a conceptual idea? Or if somebody has more sattva, what really happens? Or if somebody has more, let's say, tamas, or a certain combination of rajas and tamas, this question has to be answered. That is why this chapter is. So this chapter actually shows when guna plays out in its own ways. Of course, instead of looking at this multitude of combinations which are possible, Sri Krishna is pointing to the two ends of the spectrum. If the proportion of gunas is such that you can go to this end of the spectrum, or you can go to the other end of the spectrum, and logically there is anything in between. It's like a slider. So by showing these two ends, he is merely covering the whole possibilities and making us infer what we should do. So that is the idea in this particular chapter. This Daiva and Asura, all these, in two places Sri Krishna talked in Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 7, 15th shloka, here is the shloka. It says, Namam dushkritino mudaha prapadyante naradamaha mayaya apahrita jnanaha asuram bhavamashritaha. So, naranam adamaha, the lowest of the people, they do not understand, they get into all mischief, and they are asuram bhavamashritaha. That's the first reference in Bhagavad Gita where there is this reference of Asuri Sampat in some way. Before that you don't see. In chapter 9, there are two shlokas, one after the other, shloka 12 and 13, in which in quick succession he actually brought the Daivi Sampat. That's where the reference of Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat is there. In chapter 7 it is just the attribute of Asuras. Whereas in chapter 9, in two quick slokas in quick succession, there is a reference of Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat. Look at the shlokas. It is shloka 12 in chapter 9 first, which says, Mogasha Moga Karmanaha Moga Jnana Vichetasaha Rakshasim Asurim Chaiva Prakritim Mohini Shritaha. So it puts all the three words there. Rakshasim, Asurim, Mohinim, Prakritim Ashritaha. So that, but he did not make an effort to explain any of that. He just left that idea. Then the next shloka he says, Mahatmanaha, Mahatmanastu mam partha daivim prakritim ashritaha bhajanti ananya manasa jnatva bhutam adi avyayam. So two quick definitions of Daivi Sampat and Asuri Sampat, but not an effort to explain. Actually the shloka that follows talks only about the Daivi Sampat. So therefore, these are the references. and he has reserved the full-scale discussion to this chapter. So in this chapter there is a good discussion on Daivi Sampat and the Asuri Sampat. Now even earlier when I was offering these in a slow track, I was doing a little more of reading. I was trying to find out what these terms mean. Asura, I mean we use it in many ways. So I was trying to find out, is there a technical kind of a definition or anything? For Asura it is there. Asasu ramante iti asuraha. Asasu is, in Indriyas or in Indriyarthas. Those who are so much engaged with this pleasure, they are called asuras. That is there, Rakshasa, I'll have to go back and see. Maybe I have to take a Dhatu Rupa and find out from which Dhatu it is coming. Maybe let me see, before next class if I can do it, let me see. But I tried to look at, Mohini is straightforward. Moha is delusion. So that's not difficult. The difference between asuras and rakshasas. So from whatever little, Vaman, Shivaram, Apte, a few sources, I checked all these. What I finally found was asuras, the nearest term is demonical. So they are all desire predominated. That's why asusu ramante iti asuraha. They revel in desires, indriyarthas and so on. So they are called asuras. And rakshasas are fiendish. They are, anger predominates. So that's the difference between a rakshasa and a asura. Fiendish, to get too angry, get very taken up by anger, and you are driven by anger. Right? That's why, in chapter 3 itself, in the 37th or 38th, 37th shloka, I think, Krishna has said, Kama yesha krodha yesha rajoguna samudbhavaha. Vidhi papam vairinam. That's what he says. Mahashna mahapapma. It consumes everything. Because he asked, Anichanapi vashneye baladiva niyojitaha. There is one question he asked. So, if you have to, first people say Shad Ripus. If you want a very concise definition, they use only Kama and Krodha. That's why, there is this, what is called Kama Akarshin, Manyura Akarshin, Namo Namaha. There is a Kama Akarshin Japa. People do, at least once in a year they do. On the day of Upakarma and all that, people do. Kama and Krodha. So, Kama is the Asura variety, Krodha is the Rakshasa variety. That's why I wanted to connect that. If desire predominates, it is Asuri. If anger predominates, it is Rakshasi. So, we can be at times Asuric, at times we can be Rakshasic also. And of course, Mohini, it's all delusion. Delusion predominates. You are deluded. So these are the nearest terms that you can find and make use of to a little bit. Now I just want to point to a few things. See, in top business schools all over the world, IIM Bangalore, we use case studies because it's very important to use case studies. But I was in Tug Business School for 1 year. Once I made a presentation, then I said we have thousands of years of legacy of case studies. So they asked what it is. We said we have 2 Itihasas and Ashtadasa Mahapuranas. 18 Mahapuranas and 2 Itihasas have some million cases. I told that's how I was actually trying to. Puranas are great reading for this chapter. Puranas are great reading for life. They are great case studies for us to really look at. Now, you read any Purana, Skanda Purana, you read, Shiva Purana, Padma Purana, Vishnu Purana, Garuda Purana, or you read the Itihasas, Ramayana, Mahabharata, whatever you read, you will find certain things there. First is, the plot is a conflict between 2 opposing forces. In most of the Puranas you will find it. There is a basic conflict between 2 opposing forces. One you may call it as good or truth, and another you may call it as bad. Tag it whatever way you want to tag. Asuras, Devas, whatever you want to say. I am talking about the structure, not the detail. Then the so-called evil force, which is part of the Purana, see, all these modern serials are actually using it. So nicely they are using it. I have told my parents, If only you have a plot in which there is a rivalry between cousins, there are 2-3 wives, then you can have infinite number of episodes. That's what Mahabharata is. You can have infinite number of episodes going on and on and on and on. So that is what these Puranas also, I mean, that's also one can look at it like that. So if you look at that, these so-called evil forces, it's a very structured story. Whichever Purana you read, Upa-Puranas, one chapter, you will find this structure. What is this evil force trying to say? The evil force says, I want to conquer everything in the world. These are, broad things. I have, abstracted it to such a level, because you obviously not get into specific details of the Puranas. I want to conquer everything in the world. This is one feeling. Everybody must treat me as the ultimate Lord. The variation can be here and there, but this is a basic idea. I must be beyond death. In fact, this is a very interesting plot in all the Puranas. Bhasmasura, you look at Narasimha Avatara. What a complicated way by which the end came. So they have this desire to be immortal, which immortal when they mean the body immortality. That is why they are Mohinis. They are deluded. They don't understand the simple logic. The body cannot be kept for too long. You can put it in a mortuary for some time, probably, not beyond that. So I must be beyond death. That is the most important thing, common thing. And we also find God has very unique ways of sidestepping all these conditions. So that is the interesting lighter vein about, so far what I am saying is the lighter things about the story of so-called Puranas, which are all thousands of case studies in a management paradigm if you have to use. There are plenty of case studies of sorts. No, you look at the God has unique ways of sidestepping all these complications. Look at the story of Bhasmasura, how the end came to him, or Hiranyakashipu, or Jarasandha, Shishupala, Kamsa, Daksha, Mahishasura, Ravana. In Skanda Purana, you look at the kind of warfare that is going on between those three, asuras. It's all amazing. At one level, it's all amazing to read. And look at Aranyakanda in Ramayana, and to an extent in Balakanda also. How much of these demons are being destroyed is very high in Aranyakanda. One major story in Aranyakanda is cleaning up a lot of people. So that's the one big story in Aranyakanda. In Balakanda, in a limited sense, when Vishwamitra takes, Rama and Lakshmana along with him and so on. As I told you, Skanda Purana, if you see, this big time warfare that you can see in that. Now, let all these there. I just brought this story. Let's look at the Sukshma Tattva. These are all, I have, at a very high, generally I have said. If you go beyond the stories, that is why those Puranas are intended for. If you go beyond the stories and look at the Sukshma, right, there are a few things which you will have to find. What happens is there is a method to destruction. It's a very structured method to destruction that you will find. It's too much emphasis on lust, power and riches, which you will find. Bad treatment of women. It's very common. You read all these stories, you will find bad treatment to women, right? Very prohibited practices and all that. Asking for being the controller of everything, right? Avoiding death at any cost. All these. So all this story will continue. It's not Purana. This will continue, and such people will orchestrate their own end. That's the charm of it. You go to the Nazi movement, which happened a few decades before. It will continue millennium later also. There is a structure here. This chapter is talking about it. The question we are asking is, why is this happening? What is this pattern? That is what is answered in this chapter. So we can connect all these to this chapter. That's why I wanted to bring all these ideas. In Rig Veda, if you read, in Veda it is there, not just Puranas. In Rig Veda, if you read, you will find there is a struggle between the gods who are supposed to be the masters of light and the Asuras, and who are embodiment of infinity and sons of infinity, Amartya Purushaha, and the others who are Asuras, who are the children of night and darkness and so on. They are very figurative ways, but the plot is the same. You will find this is, in Ramayana, as I told you, all these are there. So this chapter basically provides an empirical meaning to all these. It connects many things and says, why is this happening? And it connects it to this argument we started in chapter 13, saying guna. At the end of the day, it's all about the three gunas. So everything is connected to that. So, Daivasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga, that is the title of this chapter 16. And as I told you, Rakshasas or anger predominates. Huh? Which is not visible. These slides are not required. It goes. Anger predominates their behavior. So, they are wicked, cruel, monsters. They are also monsters. It's another way. I read a few places and collected all these kind of things. Abnormal shape, abnormal, qualities. Get angry when they have obstacles to fulfillment of their desires. Harm and ruin others in a way which you cannot even imagine. Those kinds of things are all attributes around Rakshasas. Then Asuras, there the desire predominates their behavior. In fact, you should look at when Sita was taken and when he was running away in Pushpaka Vimahana, Jatayu tells Ravana, Jatayu says, you are a bacha in front of me. You are 20,000 years old, I am 60,000 years old. That's what Jatayu said. You are a bacha in front of me. And how 20,000 years? Every 10,000 years, every 1,000 years he was plucking one of his head and then offering it in the sacrificial fire. So 9,000 was over. When you were about to pluck the 10th, God came and God in the usual way sidestepped all his and made sure he will find his own end. All that stories. Look at here, a 20,000-year-old person goes after a 16-year or 18-year-old girl called Sita. That is what the Asura part. You should read Valmiki, you will get this perspective. What is happening here? All these will come. In fact, in Sundarakanda, he comes in the 19th chapter. In Sundarakanda, he comes into the Ashokavana and then looks at Ravana's best character. You can see only in Sundarakanda and Yuddhakanda. In Sundarakanda, you will see all these. In Yuddhakanda, you will see what psychological trauma he went through before he died. You will see it so well in a lot of signs, he will not get sleep, so many things. I will come to it a little later. All these you will find. It's funny to imagine that such a thing can happen, and you should see in Sundarakanda chapter 5, how many ladies are there in his, Andapura. Today it will all pale in comparison actually. I am telling you, many of the practices today will pale in comparison. I am telling you. There is a party described in chapter 6 of Sundarakanda. I don't think any amount of whatever they do today will come anywhere near it. Similarly, after it is Hanuman who did the hard work. Hanuman crossed the Lanka, crossed the seas, went to Lanka and came back and so on. But all other people wanted party. And they go to Madhuvana and destroy the whole thing. This is what is happening even today. Person who is working does not want party. People around them wants party. So these are all, I see a psychology in all this. There is a deep psychology. Anyway, that's a point besides the point that I am talking. But I am saying, these Puranas have phenomenal value if you know how to read it. Little leisurely, you have to look at it, not just read the story for the story part of it, reflect on it. You will get wonderful ideas. I have, my own small little things when I read all these Puranas in my own ways and so on. So this is what it is. They don't care for pain or loss and so on. Huh? Ravana is predominantly an Asura variety, but he is also a Rakshasa. In fact, he will have both. That's what I am saying. No, he is an embodiment of both. All these are related to the gunas actually. Now, what are their beliefs about, like this chapter will, in a way I am summarizing the chapter. The shlokas will only follow the same thing. Asuras, they have certain ideas, because we should map it to, don't think Asuras are not there, that's what I want to tell you. Don't think Asura is a Puranic character. It's no longer there. You take the first principles, you will find enough Asuras and Rakshasas in us, in every one of us. I want you to understand this very clearly. Only then this Guna argument will hold water. Or this Guna argument will not hold water. So the Asura is not a Puranic character. Don't think Asuras are all over. Now there is no Asuras. Probably there are more Asuras now. So there is a certain understanding of life. that there is no question of creator and controller of the universe. There's nothing like that. Why are you wasting time like that? Right? No need for Lord. Since there is not there, then there is no need for the sentience. There is no need for the superpower. So they are Mohinis at that, and they are deluded. They are not using their logic very well. It's illogical if you think very deeply. This cannot hold water, but they are stuck to it. So no need for Lord or action of the past, etc. in the creation process. It's just a sexual passion of men and women which creates the universe. That is a viewpoint they have by and large. No sentient element is required as such. It's all just, to an extent, a lot of scientific thinking have kept the sentient part at the back burner or the backyard. They think you can manufacture things. That's the journey they are going. And they are making small success, and like a 2-year-old child, they actually jump up and down. Success they have done is actually minuscule. A very large journey to make. Still. Right? Don't want to know what is right or wrong. Even if they know, they don't want to translate their knowledge into practice. They don't bother about all those things. Right? And another important thing about this Asura Rakshasa combination is life is to enjoy. Because this sounds very well with a lot of our current paradigms. That's why I want to say this chapter talks about current paradigm. If only we know how to connect it. So without desires, a human being becomes just like a stone. He or she can't progress. Lot of us think like that today. This thinking is there. You can actually question it. I'm not really going to put it one way or the other. I am putting it everything just in front of you. So sensual enjoyment is the only source of happiness. That's why we are today competing with animals. We want to create more and more indriyarthas for the indriyani. Which means we are so much worried about the outside world. We have forgotten there is a world inside. We are so much worried about the outside world because we think these bells and whistles called 5 indriyas are the only source by which you can know anything in world, anything worthy of what you can know. That is the idea. Life is to enjoy worldly pleasures and prosperity, steeped in enjoying the objects of senses, earning money in unfair means to enjoy them. These very word is coming in this chapter. I will show you. I am only summarizing chapter 16. You will find these shlokas using the same words. We will see. Intellect is concerned only with sensual pleasures, and then you amass a lot of wealth and then worry about how to vouchsafe it. That's the other part. One is to amass wealth somehow, and then second part is how do you vouchsafe it. These are the two major preoccupations. How would you, and then how can I be alive? What would happen to my family, wealth and property after my death? Security is a big issue. The more you discount the existence of a super creator, the more you will have security problem. You need thousands of security guards actually. There is a big security guard whom we want to actually miss. The more you forget Lakshmipati, you need allopathy. It may look very jovial, but you have to reflect deeply on some of these ideas. I am seriously telling you. Because you think you have to solve the problem. That's a huge challenge. You don't know what will happen. You step out, you don't know what will happen. So you are actually stepping onto a major responsibility if you think you have to solve problems. Yes. Okay, so his question is, his observation rather is, these gods also, the asuras also pray to the god, but then they do, there is a slide in which I will talk about it, but quickly to answer, of course they do a lot of prayer, but in most of the cases they say, I want to exercise lordship on you. That's the question they ask. That's why when Brahma gives a boon, Vishnu will finish him. Vishnu gives a boon, Shiva will finish. So he also says, I want lordship over you also. In that, in fact, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva are all lower level of gods actually, in our scheme of things. But anyway, so there is a reason why they do it, and what happens. There is one slide in which I will.
About the security, you were mentioning after 9/11, crazy about security and the systems and the amount of money that the
No, sir, not just 9/11. I will tell you, I was there in the US on 31st December 1999. I understood how much insecure you can feel if you don't believe there is a larger principle which will take care of me. If you don't know how to take your hands like Draupadi took her hands, life is hugely challenged. I found no return policy for all generators. And in my town, it's a small town, New Hampshire, I was in Tuck, which is a very small place. You must have seen the queue for buying the diesel genset. Because on moment the 31st December night, 12 o'clock, Y2K, the whole world will go dark. They took it very seriously and for right reason, because they think they have to solve their problem. Na? Better be intelligent. So that kind of a thing happens. So I think we moved. Can you go back to the previous one? Oh, we are done. Okay. So there is, in our thing, there is something called Charvakas. There is a discussion of Charvakas. Quite often you will find, but there is a website, there are IIT Madras as a big website, young students are part of it. I want to actually meet with them once and have a session also, if possible. I just want to, exchange ideas. There is people who believe in this. So there are some body of knowledge under first of all, Charvaka, Charu Vak. Charu is sweet. So you talk sweetly. Logic, deep logic and all, I am not really bringing in. Charvakas are those who can speak very nicely. Or Lokayata, Loka and Ayata. Very worldly. You have to be very worldly. So they have come with some axioms or universal principles. For example, this is a beautiful shloka. Yavat jivet sukam jivet rinam kritva gritam pibet. Okay? Basmi kritasya bhutasya basmi bhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutaha. Once you confine this body to the ashes, how is it going to come back? So enjoy when you are here. On credit, drink ghee. Drink ghee means you raise your standard of living to much more than what is possible for you. Today's credit card culture exactly fits here actually. Yavat jivet sukam jivet. Rinam kritva gritam pibet. You go on credit, let's see. Installment, you can see EMIs and all that. You don't have to, if you can't buy a TV, you don't have money, buy on installment. Let's see, worry about it later. Buy a car and then you say, I can't pay. It's a standard procedure. Buy a car, use it and say, I can't pay EMI, and then they have to take it back. What else can they do? At least 10 years back in Chennai, there were Ekambarams, Gundas. In Chennai, Ekambaram, the typical tag for Gundas are Ekambaram. Ekambarams were contracted by Citibank. Supreme Court intervened. Said you can't have Ekambarams to collect your money. There is one judgment also, I know. So all that happened. So that's what it says. Kama eka eva purushartha. Dharma artha kama moksha are not purusharthas. For this class of people, kama eka eva purushartha. Kama eva praninam karanam. I told you already. That's this thing. Pratyaksham eva pramanam. If you can't show me, no, I don't believe. Many of our thoughts are here actually, if you think about it. Pratyaksham eva pramanam. What I can't see is not there. So this God and then this Paraloka, Swarga are all fiction. You are wasting your time. That's the last thing. Paralokinaha abhavat paralokasya api abhavah. I have not seen any UFOs. I have not seen anybody from the other world. Therefore, other world does not exist. It's a simple logic. And that's the end of the story. So it's a set of logic which will all fit with these previous two slides. If you have this paradigm, then life is to enjoy, you do credit, sensual pleasure, compete with animals, what Lord and Lord, nothing is there, because I am not able to see. I am not able to see, therefore it is not there, and so on. So this Pitraloka and all those are all fiction. So don't waste your time. So this is the paradigm of Rakshasas and Asuras, about which Krishna is going to talk about in this chapter. Now, to answer partly your question, I have found a six-part framework for this whole Purana story, because I have repeatedly found this is what is happening. Right? Now, what will happen is, first you have to develop enormous strength. That's where the tapas comes. First you have to develop phenomenal strength, extraordinary strength. So, every 1,000 years you do penance and then pluck your head and then offer it in the, all these people are of that variety. You just go and see, read the Puranas. Extraordinary tapas. Tapas is very, very important. See, I was just talking, somebody who was asking me, I said, how do you succeed? There was some discussion, then I was actually reading these chapters, so these are all crossing. I said, to me it appears, success has two components. Component one is, you have to know how to define success. And component two is, there is a way to achieve what you defined as success. So there are two parts. First, you should know how to define success, and having defined whatever you have defined, right or wrong is a different question. Whatever you have defined, there is a way to actually hit that. That is called, the second part is called tapas. The first part I do not know. That is why tapas can lead to good or bad. This is an example in which the definition of success was faulty. The definition of success is, I want to have lordship over everyone, I don't want to die at all. That's a very wrong definition of success, which is an unnatural definition of success. But having done it, these asuras and rakshasas knew they were very, in fact their strength is because they had tapas. So tapas does not mean, don't think tapas means, cross the leg and sit, there is an anthill over the top of you. That is actually giving the figurative meaning of what is intended. What is tapas saying? Tapas, there is a definition, I will come to it. Tapas definition is indriya ekagriya. It's a laser-like concentration. That is called tapas. That you need for whatever you want to achieve. If what you want to achieve is wrong, everything can go fat. That is the story here. So all that strength, enormous strength and all that, with that they get ego. Once that part is over, now because their basic path is not the right path, they start digging their own grave. In fact, I am very convinced that evil people dig their own grave. I have seen it in institutions. I have seen it in my working life. I have seen it around. Evil people, you leave them, they will know. Vinasha kale viparita buddhihi. They know how to dig. They are very efficient in digging their own grave. You don't have to waste your time. You only facilitate the process. God does that. In Puranas, if you read, you will find that angle. God facilitates that process so well. And then it happens. So they get into adharmic indulgence, because now they are everything now. That's the first part of the story. I have lordship on everything. I have got extraordinary power. I have got extraordinary energy, but I am not using it correctly. That's a different story. So this is a stage 2 of all these Puranas, if you will see. And good description you will see. In fact, how many curses Ravana you got, He whacked away how many wives. One lady was going to, I think this is Kubera's, I don't remember the character name because I will not go back to Yuddhakanda and read. Ramba is one, there is one more lady. Ramba is also there, one more lady. I don't remember, I meant that already, but Ramba is also there. How many curses? He was just going and, doing all kinds of nonsense. That is the second part. All these you remember in Yuddhakanda. When the going is not well, all these are coming back to him. Is it because of Ramba curse, Manusha will come and finish you off. Now he says Rama is that person, he starts connecting. All these stories are there in Ramayana. So, adharmic indulgence, then you collect your debit points, not credit points. In today's scheme of things, that's the digging grave part. They will orchestrate everything. We don't have to worry. So, get curses. That is the way you fix your own destiny. Will happen later, but you are already arranging for it. Then the destruction begins. Early signs. In all these Puranas you will find. Moment the going is not well, the going is not good, then some of these old stories come to them. They start connecting. In Yuddhakanda you read, you will find. You should read from 40th Sarga to some 70th Sarga, the 30 Sargas you should read. How much this fellow is shaking. And all old stories, because, and they ignore also early signs. That also initially they dispose it off. Then the destruction, when it becomes imminent, there is repentance. That repentance has happened up to the modern political leaders who will fit into some of the large scale violence. I believe that stories are also fitting here. Because this cannot be anything wrong. Cannot be anything that faulty. give or take, you can adjust it a little bit, and the aftermath is colossal. Maricha, first he comes in Balakanda. He was a bad guy. But in Janasthana, when Ravana comes to take away Sita, that time Maricha is actually a very reformed. He was in this stage. He was here. There is a beautiful shloka in Aranyakanda. Maricha is trying to tell Ravana, don't do it. Don't do it. He is very reformed. He says, he's such a wonderful person. I'm happy to be killed by him. I am okay with that. But what you are doing is not all right, for which Valmiki gives a beautiful shloka. He says, if you put a poisonous snake into a pond, this is the example Maricha gives. If you put a poisonous snake into the pond, thousands of good fishes will die in your effort to take it out. You want to clear that snake out of it. In the process, thousands of good fishes will die. What he was trying to say is, if you poke your hand, if you come here and do it, lot of good people will die. That's what happened finally. So like that, there are a few such examples he gives. So the aftermath is colossal. It leaves such a trail. For a while, Mahabharata war left such a trail. That's what Arjuna was trying to avoid and all that, but there is a much larger principle which we are seeing through these texts and so on. So this structure is a structure for anybody. It applies to every one of us. The magnitude can be here and there, depending upon what is our magnitude in each of these boxes. Structure is Rakshasa and Asura. Asuras and Rakshasa behavior has a certain pattern in which it will lead. That is the point these Puranas are telling us. We need to learn to appreciate that part of the story from these Puranas actually. I will take today, since we are talking about all these, I want to take some from Vairagya Shataka, Vidura Niti. There are some interesting shlokas. I thought I will just run over them because one can connect all these. Abhiyuktam bhalavata durbalam hina sadhanam hritastvam kaminam chauram avinashanti prajagaraha is what he says. He says, this Vidura Niti is a very interesting part in Mahabharata, Vidura Niti. I am sure many of you know that. See, the war is going to happen. It's imminent. War is anyway almost going to happen. So as a last ditch effort, Sanjaya was sent as an emissary. He goes, he meets Krishna and Arjuna. There is some conversation, he comes back. As soon as he comes back, it's evening time. So he tells Dhritarashtra, he sends word, Dhritarashtra asked him to come. And Sanjaya came and said, yes, I met Krishna and Arjuna. I think war is inevitable. Half a sentence he says, I will tell tomorrow, and then he goes away. Maybe he is very tired after a journey, or I don't know what exactly the context, but he said, he simply puts in a nutshell that the mission did not succeed in terms of whatever. So that night he didn't get sleep. Dhritarashtra didn't get sleep. So he didn't know what to do. He calls Vidura. And that is the context for Vidura Niti. So Vidura, the first two shlokas, this is the 12th shloka, first chapter. The first 10-15 shlokas are, who will not get sleeplessness? He asks, do you belong to any of the... First shloka itself is very piercing. He says 5 conditions. Under these 5 conditions, people will not get sleep. Which condition do you belong to? Very nice. That's how it starts. So in that context it comes. So he says only a weak will be overpowered by sleeplessness. See, he is suffering from sleeplessness. He is trying to tell him, you are weak. You have given up some of your, opportunities to do things which you have given up willingly. That is the whole argument in the Vidura Niti and so on. Right? He says, just like somebody who had a lot of money is taken, is very worried if that kind of a sleeplessness will come for somebody who is weak, will be similar to that. That's one example he gives. Then he says, Yasya krityam na nibadnanti sitam ushnam bhayam rati smriddhihi asamriddirva samriddirva asamriddirva. Samruddhirva, asamruddhirva, savai pandita. See, there are panditas lakshana, he says. Then murkas lakshana. These are all chapter 1. Who are all panditas, who are all murkas, and so on. All these you can understand how we have to be very, very, in our life, we need to have that sense of discrimination. Otherwise, that's what this chapter is actually finally pointing. That's why I wanted to bring all these. He says, Yasya krityam na nibadnanti. Whatever I do doesn't bind me, which means I thought about very well and did. See, there is a nice shloka in Tirukkural which says, if I translate it, it says, before you engage in an act, think enough and act. After you act, don't start thinking. There is one Tirukkural like that. So that is what it is being implied by this, this part that he is saying. And it is not only this, Sitam, Ushnam, Bhayam, Rati, attractiveness, fear, heat, cold, none of that will affect a person. He is actually a buddhiman, he is a pandita. Not only that, samruddhirva, asamruddhirva, whether it is prosperity or adversity, this is called titiksha. In Bhagavad Gita, that is the titiksha definition. Samruddhiva, asamruddhiva, sitamva, ushnamva, bhayamva, rativa, these are all pairs of opposites. He is not worried. If you are worried, that means somewhere your paradigms are wrong. That is what is coming back to you. That is the point in the Vidura Niti actually. Na aprapyam abhivanchanti. Na prapyam abhivanchanti. Nashtam na ichanti shochitim. Apatsu na cha muhyanti naraha pandita buddhaya. It's a beautiful sloka. He says, Na aprapyam abhivanchanti. What I can't get, I will not unnecessarily. The stretch goal is okay, don't stretch too much. See, the management stretch goal is alright, but the stretch gets too much, elasticity is too much. If you stretch too much, then you are nothing but embodiment of stress and sulking and all that. That's what he is saying. You should also know what is achievable. I mean, you stretch the goal and all that, I am all for it. But you should have a sense of what is achievable given the kind of endowment that I have in terms of my buddhi, my support. That judgment you will have to make. The Panditas will do it, is what he is saying. Na aprapyam abhivanchanti, nashtam na ichanti shochitam. Something got lost, they just leave it. Something got lost. I didn't get a promotion. I mean, they don't sulk over it, they don't fall over it and then create a mess out of it. They are able to come out of it. Nashtam na ichanti shochitam. They don't want to be, too long into that kind of a thing. Apatsu cha nabhyanti. When there is a crisis, they don't, get deluded or confused. Naraha pandita buddhayaha. Kamascha rajan krodascha tau prajnanam vilumpatah. Same thing. The Rakshasas and Asuras, one is Kama, another is Krodha. So that is what he is saying. So he says desire and anger actually cast wisdom on the shade, cast a shade on the wisdom actually. Avyadijam, he says what kind of, this is again a very nice shloka. Avyadijam, that which is not out of a vyadi, not because of a mental, illness. There is a certain illness. Avyadijam, katukam, which is very bitter. Sisharogi, headache, or which creates a headache. Papanubandham, that which ties you to sin. You do something, it binds you into sin. Papa anubandham. Papa anubandham. Parusham, which is very pungent. Tikshnam, sharp. Ushnam, hot. Satam peyam. It should be yat na pibantyanti santaha manyum. So these are all these are the adjectives for the anger. He says anger because of all these, which is not due to, see, sometimes if you are very sick, there is a certain anger. He says, I am even granting you that. But if you get anger without that, that anger is not worthwhile. That's what he is actually talking about. So Manyuhu, which is not any of these, Manyuhu, which is Tikshnam, which is Ushnam, which is Parusham, which is binds you into sin, he says all those you should know how to step out of it. That's what he says in this shloka. Right? Because all these righteous men will just swallow it. They will not show anger like that. They will step out. Whereas if you look at the Rakshasa and Asuras, they are all stuck in this. This is all the causes in which they start destroying themselves with that power which they acquired at the very beginning. Yeah. In Vairagya Shataka there are nice shlokas. So far it is about anger. Now we will look at desire. Some, thoughts on desire. It says, Bhogana bhukta vayameva bhuktaha, tapona tapta vayameva taptaha, kalona yataha vayameva kayataha, trishnana jirna vayameva jirna. It's a beautiful shloka. He says, the bhoga that you wanted to, consume, that's not over. You are consumed in the process. Because you got into serious loan here and there and you, become bankrupt finally. That's the meaning of it. Or, you lost your moral values, you lost your credibility, you lost your respect. Anything can happen if you go on that path too much. Let's say, Bhogana bhukta, vayameva bhukta, this personality is consumed. This vyaktitva is consumed. Finished. That's the meaning. Then tapona taptaha, you didn't do tapas. Vayameva taptaha, the other tapta is scorched. You are burnt. You didn't do any tapas. You got burnt in the process. You didn't even do it properly. We think we are trying to do tapas. It was not working. With a desire, that is what will happen. Kalona yataha, vayameva yataha. Time does not pass. We pass. Please understand. Time doesn't pass. We pass one day and final rites are done. We only pass. Time now. We have this knack of saying time passes. Time will never pass. We are only passing. That's what he is saying. Kalona yataha, vayameva yataha. And Trishna ana jirna, vayameva jirna. This unquenchable desire is called Trishna. That is not jirna. We have become jirna. Still this desire is pretty strong. So he says this is an unending game. Sooner you understand it, you can cap it. You can put it into its limits. That's the meaning here. It doesn't say, become desire. It says, know where to put the cap. You rule it. Let it not rule you. Yeah. There is one shloka in Bhagavad Gita which is a dhyana shloka. This is exactly the same pattern. The Asha Nama Nadi. This is a river called Asha. So how is it? That's what is being described in Vairagya Shataka. Asha Nama Nadi, and for the Nadi, the gushing waters is Manoratha. This, wish list. I will do this, I will be like this, I will do that, I will do this, and so on. Manoratha, this wandering of the mind, is those gushing water. Trishna taranga kulaha, waves will never reside. Waves may break, but there are endless waves. As long as there is a water system, there is a ripple, there is a wave, that will never end. That's why Trishna is used for it. Trishna is the waves for this water system. Right? Raga Grahavati, this Raga is the crocodile which, right? That's what it is. That's Grahavati is the crocodile. Vitarka Vihaga, Dairyam Udvamsini, all these, different kinds of thoughts that you have, all kinds of thoughts that you have, are the birds, in aquatic system, all the time birds come and sit and then go, come and sit and then go. So the thoughts come and go. And then this river, what it does? It unnerves you. Dairyam Udvamsini. This river is so powerful that it will shake your dhairya at times. And Moha Avarta. The whirlpool is Moha. Moha is the whirlpool. Sudustara Atigahana. Very deep. This river is very, very deep. It has a whirlpool and it is very, very deep. Protanga Chinta Tati. These two banks. The strength of the river is the banks. It is this, all the time, this feeling this, I have not got it, so I will have to work for it, I will get more and more. This thought, these disturbing thoughts, those are the 30. And then he says, all these are the description of the river. Then Bhartrihari says, Tasyaha paragataha vishuddha manasaha. So, people with a Shuddha Manas are able to cross this river. This river doesn't pose a challenge for whom? Vishuddha Manasaha. Nandanti Yogishwaraha. Such people are praised. They are the, real Yogishwaras, they are able to cross. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, there is Bhishma Drona Tata Jayatrata Jala Gandhara Nilotpala. There is one Dhyana Shloka exactly like this. So Bhartrihari has a shloka. So these shlokas are on desire. I just want to talk about anger and desire have occupied a great deal of thinking. That's why I wanted to bring all these shlokas from Viduraniti, because they are all at the back of today's. Anyway, so now let's get into, with all these introduction, let's get into the chapter. There are 24 shlokas in this chapter. Again, not a big chapter. It's a small chapter only. And the first 3 shlokas, Krishna mentions 26 attributes of Daivi Sampat. And that's all, no more discussion of Daivi Sampat, because all these chapters talked about Daivi Sampat. You will find all these values, 26 values, are exactly what you find in chapter 13. Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshanti, Rarjavam. They are all only coming here. So that's why not much discussion on that. The discussion here is, what is the other part? The gunas playing it. So there is a, most of the chapter is only, although it is called Daivasri Sampat, this chapter is Asuri Sampat. But that required a little more discussion. Daivi Sampat has been discussed, it's only connected. So ideally, it is that. So the rest of the chapter is only on Asuri Sampat. A good chunk of 21 shlokas actually speaking. But in the 4 to 18, first there is, in a nutshell, there are a pair of shlokas which describes Asuri Sampat in a quick. But then there is a certain, all that I put in some bullets, you will find in shlokas. Krishna says they will at any cost earn money, all those will come. So all those are there, that perspectives about life, their personal values and approach to life. And then it ends, therefore it says, the only way you can get out of this Asuri Sampati is you have to believe in Shastra. Somewhere he ends that kind of a pitch with this, the chapter, and we'll see some of the shlokas. So first these 3 shlokas quickly brings these 26 attributes. So I will quickly go over it because we have seen it earlier a few times. Sri Bhagavan Vacha Abhayam Sattva Samshuddhihi Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi Danam Damascha Yajnascha Swadhyayastapa Arjavam. So there are actually 9, I put in black, blue, red to count the 9. There are 9 actually. You will find 3 rounds of 3 cycles of that. So there are 9 values here. Abhayam, fearlessness, right? And then Sattva Samshuddhihi, purity of thought in the heart. Jnana Yoga Vyavasthitihi, chapter 3 and 4 talked about it so well. Jnana Yoga. Danam, we are going to see this in chapter 17 anyway. Some more details of this, different types of dana and all that. Danam, Dhamma, and then which is outward control. Yajna, chapter 3 and 4 we saw good descriptions of Yajna. Swadhyaya, right? Swadhyaya has 2 meanings. One meaning of Swadhyaya is reading the Vedic literature. Another meaning is Swadhyaya. You have to, at the end of the day, journey is very personal. There is no group study possible. There is no group effort to become spiritually better and all doesn't work. It is all inside. That's Swadhyaya. And then Tapaha, and then Arjavam, which are all, that's why Swami Vivekananda says, strength is life and weakness is death. Abhaya is a great embodiment of refinement of character. And Abhaya is your ability to take a decision which normally you will not. If you see somebody in the road who is struggling, most of us will run away. Give him one rupee and run away. We will not have the guts to do, empathize so much with him, which the CNN hero Narayanan Krishnan did. That is not easy. That is called fearlessness. It's not having Z security or some dadas around us or gundas. That is all politicians' Abhaya. The Abhaya here is the character is pure and it is very strong. It can, see real God everywhere. That kind of a thing. Yeah. So on Bhaya, since Abhayam, Vairagya Shataka has a beautiful shloka in Bhaya. A very practical shlokas actually. Look at here. Bogo Roga Bhayam. AIDS is the easiest way to explain it. Boge Roga Bhayam, Kulachyuti Bhayam. See, people, if you think you are high in the society, you are very concerned here, because slightest thing somebody will think, you are falling from the pecking order. It's very, very challenging. Better be very simple. That's what he says. Kule chutibayam chittaha, it's vittaha. I'm sorry, there's a typos. It's a vitta. That is taxman. The modern taxman. Vittaha and ripalad bayam. If you have money, you have fear from the king. Because black money and all that. Swiss accounts and so on. Mane dainya bayam. Your honor, you think, you are very worried whether you will be dishonored. This fear is always there when you have this conceit. Deceit, you can't take it. Right? We saw that amanitvam. That's why we saw amanitvam in chapter 13. Bale ripuhu bayam. Your strength is only to the extent of somebody actually physically challenging you. So even that can be all the time checked. Rupe jaraya bayam. Right? You cannot defy the age, whatever you do. Rupe jaraya bayam. Whatever you do. Old age is the biggest fear for looks, which modern cosmetic industry knows it very well. You don't have to tell them. Right? Shastre vadibayam. This I know everything is a very fancy thing. Only one person has to come and show you don't know something. That's why they don't get into, that's why professors don't share their PPTs at all. Because Shastre vadibayam. Keep it to yourself. That's the best thing. Because then people think you are great, and then in that compartment you can come around, round and so on. So Shastre vadibayam, that is the meaning of it. Right? Gune kalabayam. Right? And kaye kritantat bayam. That is the biggest fear we have. Biggest fear here is when is death going to come. Kritanta. Right? So sarvam vastu bayanvitam. So he says whichever direction you turn, it is only baya only. Finally Bhartrihari comes to that conclusion. Sarve bayanvitam bhuvi nirnam vairagyam eva abhayam. He says the only one which can take you out of all these bayas is vairagya. That's what he's saying. Otherwise, if you don't have vairagya, you have to live in fear only. It's a very important statement. If you don't have vairagya, you will have fear. Next slide, I have a nice, from one of the Gita commentary, I found a nice sentence, which I will see, yeah. So, there are different types of fear, but I want to focus on this second bullet. Look at this second bullet. This is what I say, vairagyameva abhayam. As long as a human being does not do what is worth doing, does not know what is worth knowing, and does not gain what is worth gaining, fear always is there. I found in this book, it's a very nice statement. I think we have to reflect on this statement. We should know what is worth doing, we should know what is worth knowing and what is worth gaining. Yeah, vairagya will give you that clarity. So vairagyameva abhayam actually means that. It's a clear sense of discrimination of what should I bother about. Actually in life we are bothering about a lot of things which we should not be bothering about, actually speaking. So objectively look at it and then sit down and do a little meditate on this idea. You will think there are lots of things you will have to question it. Why am I doing it? That questioning and the wisdom will give you vairagya. That is what he called as vairagyameva abhayam. That's the meaning of vairagya. Vairagya is not, I will give up everything. No. Vairagya means nothing can affect me. That sense of discrimination that I have achieved. That is true vairagya actually. Then tapas. As I told you, tapas is very important. For a wrong reason also you can do tapas. But tapas is the only toolkit for success. But defining success is another important step. So it's all about concentration of energy and sense organs. In Yajnavalkya Smriti, that's what it says. Manasascha indriyanam cha hi ekagriyam paramam tapaha. Manas and indriyas must be laser focus. So all these people sitting on the ant hill and all that are actually pointing to this, that nothing is affecting you. That is the meaning of it. Not that, I don't know whether there was really an ant hill and all that. But that stories are intended to tell nothing should shake you. That is the idea there. That's what Yajnavalkya Smriti says. Manasascha indriyanam cha hi ekagriyam paramam tapaha tat jyayaha sarva dharmebhyaha. That is the best of all dharmas. Sadharmaha paraha uchyate. That is a toolkit for prosperity. That's why we should do tapas. We should develop the habit of tapas. We have to have deep concentration, not get distracted. That's what he said in chapter 2 anyway. He said that, na, Bahushaka hi anantascha. Buddhihi abhyavasainam. That's what he said. Vyavasayatmika buddhihi kuru eka iha nandana. That's what he said in chapter 2. Have that concentration. That's a great skill that we need. But the problem we find all these Purana stories is they had all the concentration, they had all the strength, but the definition of what they should use it for was wrong. That's why Valmiki's Ramayana, if you read and understand it, that perspective, Valmiki puts Rama and Ravana in the same pedestal when it comes to greatness. Greatness means the skills, my ability to achieve things, they are all the measures of greatness, both are put on the same pedestal. But on goodness, Ravana fell down. That's why Ravanayor Yuddham, Rama Ravanayor Iva. This is what in Yuddha Kanta he says. He says, I can't give you Upama. But they are parallel to nothing. Such great personalities. Rama Ravanayor Yuddham, Rama Ravanayor Iva. You will find one shloka like that in Yuddha Kanta. Because they were equal when it comes to greatness, but when it comes to goodness, Ravana was no match for Rama. That's why, that is the story in this chapter that is coming. Then, Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodaha, the next set of 11 attributes. Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodaha, Tyagaha, Shantihi, Apaishunam, Daya, Bhuteshu, Avaloluptam, Daya Bhuteshu, Avaloluptam, Mardavam, Hrihi, Achapalam. Chapala, some of them we know straight what it is. Hri is very, very important to know. Hri is a very special word. I don't know what I have put he here. Yeah, actually some people call it, translate as fear. It's of a different fear. You know, in Taittiriya Upanishad there is a set of things. He says, Shraddhaya Deyam, Ashraddhaya Deyam, Biya Deyam, Diya Deyam, Sambhida Deyam, Hriya Deyam. One Hri is also there. What it means is, I am taking that example because I can explain Hri very well in that. It's all about giving. In that Upanishad, passing out advice for the students, Guru is giving a lot of things in which it is coming. Say Shraddhaya Deyam. Give with Shraddha. Ashraddhaya Adeyam. That I is silent in when we utter the mantra for the meter and the ucharana and so on. Ashraddhaya Adeyam. Now it is very important to tell the negative. If you have to be absolutely sure, don't stop with saying give with faith. Give with faith will not mean don't give without faith. Please understand, this is very important to say. That's why immediately he said Ashraddhaya Adeyam. So that he wants to be absolutely sure that such a possibility should not even, otherwise, there is a way you can interpret and get there. So it says Shraddhaya Adeyam, Ashraddhaya Adeyam, Biya Adeyam, with fear you give, that the bhaya. Then he says Hriya Adeyam. That fear is, when I give, I should have that fear that I don't hurt that personality. Look at the subtleness there. That's why I use modesty here. Hri is a fear that he should not get hurt. Hriya Deyam means, I should not just throw it. With all my ahankara and I have money, you're asking, just take it. That, that particular person, because he is at a position where he is disadvantaged, he may take it, but he is hurt. See, he says, don't even do that. That is called Hri. Hri is that subtle feeling of not hurting others. That fear. Some people translate as fear. That's why I want you to know it's not fear of that kind. That already told Biya Deyam, Hriya Deyam. So that's the Hri here. Paishunam, which is backbiting, being slanderous and so on. It's a Pishnu Bhava. Pishnu Bhava is Paishunam. Mridu Bhava is Mardavam. So very soft. Those kinds of values he talks about. Achapala. Not wavering, unwavering. Na chapala. Chapalasya Bhava hai chapalam. Achapalasya Bhava achapalam. It's just the opposite of that. Ahimsa, all that we have already seen.
Paishunam is opposite of Pishunam.
No, here it is Apaishunam. Here I have defined what is Paishunam. There what it comes is Apaishunam. Where is it?
Mixed.
Shantihi. See, there is a visarga which will become repa in Sanskrit, in Sandhi. Whenever you see a repa, that means there is a visarga in Sandhi. Either it will become repa, it will become sakara, depending upon what is the next. And there are sometimes lopa also will happen. There are three things. Visarga can become lopa, disappear, or quite often it becomes repa. If there is ach, it may become, all those are there. So, there, Shantihi, Apaishanam. Santi, Rapaishanam. The ir is coming there. Okay. So, this Krishna says in this chapter, there, Puranas, as I was telling you, there is this eternal conflict between good and evil. Now, this is a very interesting passage I wanted to bring. This is a beautiful passage. See, Hanuman saw Ravana only when he was brought to the court, directly. Until then he was seeing, hiding in the tree, night time when he was sleeping, like that only he saw. First time when he saw eye to eye, directly, was when he was Indrajit, did the Brahmastra and he, got himself subjected to it, although he need not have done it. He subjected himself to the Brahmastra and then he went to the Ravana's court. That 49th chapter in Sundarakanda, beautiful chapter, about 30 shlokas. This is the sum and substance of that chapter. So I pulled only these two shlokas out of that. Look at this shloka. Hanuman is saying, Hanuman is looking at Ravana and he is saying, what is he saying? He is saying, Aho Rupam. Aho is an exclamatory mark actually. Oh, what kind of a personality is what he is saying. Looking at Ravana. Aho Rupam, Aho Dairyam, Aho Sattvam, Aho Dyutihi. He is shining. Dyuti is shine. Dyotayati. What a shine. This person he looks like such a great personality. Right? Aho Rakshasa Rajasya Sarva Lakshana Yuktata. He is perfect. All Lakshanas are with him. I have skipped the 17th sloka. This is a kind of a conclusion. So I wanted to give you the gist of it. So he says, Aho Rupam, Aho Dairyam, Aho Sattvam, Aho Dyutihi. Aho Rakshasa Rajasya Sarva Lakshana Yuktata. Then what did he say? Look at the second sloka. That's the most interesting sloka. Then he says, Yedi Adharmaha na balavan syat yam rakshaseswaraha syat ayam suralokasya sashakrasya pi rakshita. I will do the anvaya of this. You will understand it the moment you do anvaya. He says, Balavan Yedi adharmaha na syat. He is a balavan. Balavan yedi, there is a yedi here. Adharmaha na syat ayam. Ayam balavan yedi na adharmaha ayam rakshaseshwaraha. Oh, this Rakshaseshwara, he is so powerful guy. If only he was not adharmic, which means he was dharmic. That's what he is coming to. And then he says, I am, this fellow, Syat, he will become. Syat is, he will become. I am Syat, what? Suralokasya. Suranam lokaha, Devaloka. Suralokasya Rakshita, he will be the protector of the Devaloka. Not only that, Shashakrasyapi, he will be the protector of Indra also. He is so powerful. So that's what he says. He says this fellow has greatness, he doesn't have goodness. That's what he is saying. He looks so great, but alas, this fellow did not have dharma. If only he had dharma, he could have conquered everything. Which is in a state, he is saying he is in a state. He goes and advises him, your days are numbered. Next sarga. Moment he said, in the next sarga, moment he said is Ravana, because Rakshasa anger. He says, finish him off, and then Vibhishana comes. We know the story there. Yeah. So, these are all the background. Now the slokas will make sense. I am telling all these because I can run through the slokas very fast now. Because this is all what is being implied in these slokas. Let's look at these slokas. Pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana viduhu asuraha na shaucham napi chacharo na satyam na acharaha na satyam teshu vidyate. First of all, he says what these people don't have. How do you define Ashuri Sampat? He says, pravrittim cha nivrittim cha janana viduhu. So they, there is no basis for pravritti and nivritti. They'll just do whatever they, they do. Na shaucham. Cleanliness is not external cleanliness. It's a cleanliness of thought. That's the most important thing. Right? It's very, very important. It is not only the external cleanliness, they may be very clean. But, it is the internal purity of thought. That's the meaning of the shaucham here. Na acharaha. There is no achara vicharas. They don't have any, certain conduct. Teshu vidyate. Keshu rakshaseshu were those who had asuri sampat. So the first definition. He says they will not have any achara. They don't have cleanliness of thought. They don't have a way of doing. They will do whatever they want to do. That's how he starts the discussion of the asuri sampat. Asatyam apratishtam te jagat ahuhu anishwaram. Jagat ahuhu anishwaram. They say this world is not Lord. There is no Lord for this world. It is their preoccupation, no? And the tapas, that is what they also wanted. At the end of it, they say, I am the Lord. Hiranyakashipu is saying only that to Prahlada all the time. This is what he is saying all the time. Jagat ahuhu anishwaram. There is no Ishwara component in the world. Right? Aparaspara sambhutam kim anyat kamaihi kama haitukam. What is this? How is this world made? The world is made of this sensual pleasure that we have. That is a hetu. What else is there? That is their thinking. Oh, there is no Lord and all that. It's all, enjoy madi. In Kannada they say enjoy madi. You just enjoy. That's how the world is created, how the living beings are created. That's their model. That's the cause of the universe. There is nothing like sentient cause and all are not there. So that's the second thing. Etam drishtim avashtabhya. With this perspective in life, etam drishtim avashtabhya, right? Etam drishtim avashtabhya, nashta atmanaha alpa buddhaya. He said, Krishna says, this very perspective has actually discounted their vyaktitva. It's a matter of time. They have lost. That vyaktitva is destroyed. Nashta atmanaha. So here Atmana, again, Atman is not a Jivatma. That's why we have to be very careful. Atman means this Vyaktitva, that's the meaning. The Jivatma, the soul is the Kshetrajna is there. It is playing in a very different game, so it is losing an opportunity of progress. It has lost an opportunity of progress. That is the meaning of it. So it says, Nashta Atmanaha Alpa Buddhayaha. I think they don't have this grand thinking, they are very short-sighted understanding of life. Alpa Buddhayaha. Prabhavanti Ugra Karmanaha Kshayaya Jagato Ahitaha. So they get into Ugra Karma, very aggressively they do destroy. They are the root cause of destroying many things. That's what he says. Prabhavanti Ugra Karmanaha Kshayaya Jagato Ahitaha. Then how do they approach life? With this kind of a perspective, how do they approach life? He says, Kamam ashritya dushpuram damba mana madanvitaha mohat grihitva asadgrahan pravartante ashuchivrataha. They are not shuchivrataha, they are ashuchivrataha. Their practices are all unclean. Shuchivratana, ashuchivrataha. They are all ashuchivrataha. And what they do? Kama mashritya dushpuram. They are filled with kama. They are nothing but their thought process, everything is full of kama. It's just kama only drives the whole thing. Kamam ashritya dushpuram. So damba. They full of hypocrisy, dambitva. Right? Madar, mana. So that's why in chapter 30 he said adambitvam amanitvam. Here it is mana and damba. It's a ulta of that here, which he is talking here. Damba, mana and mada. They have all this pride and arrogance and all that. Mohat, they are deluded because their perspectives are not very objectively very appealing. If only they can, think on it more and more, maybe they will see something else. So they are deluded. Mohat grihitva asadgrahan pravartante. They get into all impure things. Ashuchivrataha. This is their approach to life. Then he says, Chintam aparimeyam. Their chinta is aparimeya. There is no limit. Parimana is one which you can measure. Parimeya is that which can be measured. Aparimeya is, it cannot be measured. So their thing, chinta is limitless. That's what it is. Immense concerns. Because this game when you get in, initially it may all look all right. Very soon you will find that you get both. No? This is that casino game which I was talking about 2 sessions before. This is like the casino game. It's not that you are only winning. Then the losses are there. That's what in Mundaka Upanishad, Dvau saparna samanam vriksham parishasva jate tayoranyah swadu pippalam atti ananyah anashnan abhichakashiti. 2 birds. One bird was just sitting without eating anything. The second bird started eating. Then there is a second shloka. I don't know it by heart. This shloka I know by heart. The meaning of the second shloka is, after it started eating, so this bird started eating. They are sitting side by side. So there was a fruit here, it plucked it, it was very tasty. So it was eating it. So it found it was eating, then it moved away from this bird a little bit because there was another fruit there. Then it went, it ate it. Then it moved one branch lower, there was another fruit there. After a while it found there were a lot of sour fruits. The taste was not good. Which means, if you get into a business, pluses and minuses are there. Although management we teach only good things can happen. And everything we bundle around it and looks like everybody wants to believe it and they go anyway. So after a while, it finds that things are not going well. The propensity to find a sweet fruit is less, looks like. Then it looks around and looks at the other bird. The other bird is sitting still in the top branch. It's nothing but it's shining like a golden bird. Vita shoka. It's it says it is absolutely expressionless. Then it said, I made a mistake. I should have been there. I started. When I started, things looked all right. But after a while, when you take stock, see, we also have our own, in life we have all this. We don't know how to get out of it. But we also know at times when you sit down and reflect, at the end of it, it's not worth. We say, it's not worth working, but we continue to work anyway. Or we say it's not worth having this or having that and so on. So that is what he is saying here. And if you are actually driven with too much of desire and passion, this propensity is higher. Definitely it will happen. It's not something which is an extraordinary event or an event which is not going to happen or anything like that. So he says, that's why chintam aparimeyam cha pralayantam upashitaha. Pralaya is not Mahapralaya, Pralaya of this body. So this person conducts a life. He goes on one snapshot which is one Janma. In this Janma, this person is ridden with a lot of desire and all that. So at the end of it, he feels so up to, there is this nice story. This is some in Upanishad. I don't know which Upanishad, Upakatha or somewhere it is coming, I think. Story is one fellow is falling. He is actually falling into a deep well. We don't even know how deep it is. As he is falling, there is no hope. Suddenly there is one creeper. So he is holding on to the creeper. The creeper is actually giving slowly the weight. It is not holding this weight. The creeper is, right? There is one, snake or something there is one thing which is ready. Outside you go, there is a tiger or leopard or something which is man-eater waiting there. At that time, there is, from a beehive, there is this honey dripping. So this fellow is getting on to lick it. The story may look, actually it sounds very humorous, but sometimes if you look at our life, that is what it is. They say, Pralayantam upashitaha. The end is not too far away, yet these worldly things doesn't leave it. No? That's why in the Yaksha Prashna, when Yamadharma Raja was asked some 39 questions, some 35 questions, he says, what is the most biggest ascharya, mahat ascharya vishaya. He says, ahanyahani bhutani gachanti himalayam, seshaha stavaram ichanti kimascharyam ataparam. Every day people are packed off. They are going. Seshaha, I have not gone still, na? So, seshaha stavaram ichanti. They think nothing will happen to me. The way we organize life and we do, the endowment that we have on place and people and things is such. Actually, objectively, if you look at it, that endowment can happen only when nothing can shake you, which is the biggest lie. Next moment I can fall. Vidyutchalam Jeevitam, that's what it is. It is like Vidyutchalam Jeevitam, but still many things that we do, particularly our entitlement about space, our entitlement about relationship, our entitlement about on things, endowment, the kind of endowment we want to have, we have to very objectively think on this. Now, the more and more objectively think on it, we will not run away from that. People who immediately argue we will run away. We will never run away. What will happen is we will put value to it. We know how to value things. See, our problem is our valuation is very flawed. Our valuation of things around us is very flawed. That can undergo a change. That's why he says, Pralayantam upashritaha. Until their end, they are in this game and very actively involved player in the game. Pralayantam upashritaha. Kama upaboga paramaha. Yetavaditi nishchitaha. Life is all about kama and upaboga. Enjoy. Have desire, fulfill desire. Moment you have fulfilled desire, up the ante. Go to the next level. And then put all your effort and then. So there can be no joy of having fulfilled something, because moment you have fulfilled, your stretch goal will work now. You will stretch it. I bought a Maruti 800, I am not happy. Until I bought a Maruti 800, I was happy. The moment I bought a Maruti 800, I saw my neighbor is actually having a 250 brake horsepower car. Some Volkswagen something. Finished. Now I'll have to find out how to make money for it. So I get into indulge in all kinds of things. Moment I buy the Volkswagen, I find that this door neighbor actually has a multi-utility vehicle. A Toyota Innova. Many things are like that. That is what, this takes this route. Now, you may think I am trying to be very, pessimistic or anything. I am telling all these examples not for any other thing. I am saying, if only we can develop a little bit of objectivity in these matters. We need to develop a little bit of objectivity. That will carry. We don't have to develop extreme levels of dispassion. In fact, I would never say that. We need to make that beginning. We need to think. We need to think about this notion of entitlement, this notion of endowment of resources and relationships and so on all these things. That's all. If we start thinking, it will do that behavioral corrections which will bring a huge difference to our perspectives in life. That is what all these are actually trying to say. Kopa kamaha upabogaha paramaha yetavad iti nishchitaha. Life is only this much, there is nothing more than that, is what they actually think. One more we will see. Then, so if you have that paradigm, where will you go? You say, life is to enjoy. Until my last breath, it's all about sense of entitlement, endowment of resources, position, power, respect. So many things in the society that we are talking, but all of them have an element of bhaya, which we already saw. Vairagya Shataka, he said, for everything you say, Bhartirari says, there is also fear of one kind. Anyway, let that be there. So if we lead a life like that, then where will you go? It says, Asha Pasha Shataihi. Asha Pasha Shataihi. Hundreds of Asha and Pasha will tie you. Baddaha. Asha Pasha Shataihi Baddaha. Kama Krodha Parayanaha. See, Kama and Krodha are two sides of the same coin. Please understand. If one exists, other will have to exist. Kama exists, Krodha will exist. They are two sides of the same coin. Moment you have attachment, you have to have aversion. Because that attachment to something which you realize you are not able to achieve, it has to become aversion. That's the only way you can solve that problem. What is attachment if not reachable will become aversion. What is attachment if not reachable? That kama will transform into krodha. The aversion and krodha are one set. Kama and attachment, raga is one set. So that's what it is. That's why he says kama krodha parayanaha. They are the ultimate parama ayana. Ayana is the, you know what ayana is. So parayanaha, ultimate embodiment of kama and krodha. The ultimate repository. The ultimate place where kama and krodha can very safely reside. These are different ways you can interpret the word parayana. Ayana is where you are protected. Right? So kama krodha parayanaha. That's what he is saying, which means it will be always, kama and krodha will be part of the story. Kama krodha parayanaha ihante kama bogartam anyayena artha sanchayana. See, he is using a word. You will earn money in all kinds of illegal ways. That's what he is saying. Anyayena, not nyayena. Anyayena artha sanchayana. Because how will you fulfill this? In fact, corruption happens only because of that. If I can live with what I have, there can be no room for corruption. If whole community, society thinks that God has given me something, I am very thankful to God and live with it. There is no room for corruption. But that's not like that. It is not possible. So the Rajasic, so all these are related to the gunas anyway. The Rajasic and the Tamasic, certain combination of that will drive these nuts actually in a big way. So such people you will find that they will have to somehow make the money, because that's the only way you can fulfill the desire. And so you get into a mess. I mean, you think you will not be caught, and if you are caught, then you spend some more money to come out of it, and so the next cycle of anyayen, artha sanchayan will start. That's one kind of a paradigm, and finally you will destroy yourself. You don't need anybody to destroy yourself. I don't need anybody to destroy myself if I get into this path. That's what I have learned from all these stories. This picture is very clear, and we should develop deep belief in it. We can lead a very interesting and a very contented life with what we have. And I mean, we can stretch our goals. I'm not saying don't stretch your goals, but don't stretch your goals in such a way that you'll get into all kinds of ways, ends at any cost of means. That is will not really, it will not develop the Vyaktitva. It will destroy this personality. It will not develop. No, we'll stop. One more. Previous, no? Ihante kama bogartam. So, they try to, anyaya and artha sanchayan, they take money out of it and then spend it for kama bogartam. So that is what he says. So he says there are certain perspectives about life, and there are certain values they bring to the table, and because of that they will engage in it, and which describes a great deal of the current empirical living for a number of us, which we might not have thought about in varying shades. Society by and large has this. That's what this chapter is, a very empirical chapter in that sense. He is bringing all of them here. I think we will stop here and continue in the next class. Yeah.
Depending on the purpose, purpose can be like two types. Sanskrit purpose, which is done by rishis, and Tamasic purpose, which is done by
Yeah, that's what I said. If you have to succeed, you need tapas. Now the question is, how do you define success? If your definition of success is faulty, then it becomes a tamasic tapas. The energy that you acquired will be very destructive, both for you and for a larger ecosystem will also get destroyed. See the kind of destruction that happened in Kurukshetra. See the kind of destruction that happened in Lanka. You should read the first 5 chapters of Sundaraganta. What a prosperous, apparently a prosperous city Sri Lanka was, before it was destroyed some 100 sargas later. The time span was 100 sargas in a Valmiki time frame. It was all, Hanuman, when in fourth chapter of Sundarakanda, he passes. 3rd chapter, Langini, then he gets in. in the 4th chapter and 5th chapter, he actually passes through the roads of Lanka. It's a very good description. But then, that's why I always say that a prosperity, a material prosperity acquired without the cardinal principle of dharma will be like a pack of cards. That is the story I infer from Sundarakanda and Yuddhakanda. If people earn without that basic dharmic thing, it will be like a pack of cards, and it has its own ways of. That's why in Manusmriti he said dharmo rakshati rakshitah. Then he also said dharma hanti hatascha something. Dharma will protect those who protected it. Dharma will destroy who destroyed it. That's what Manusmriti says. So it's very, very important that the parameters of what we should be in life. That's why Dharmartha Kama Moksha was that Purushartha, which there is a certain thing that we talked about. Okay.
Like the modern